Hi, welcome back to Cliff Road. Sorry I look a bit of a mess. Do I care? Probably not. Gotta be honest, when you're working in a hostel, you really just, in your downtime, you sometimes you're just worn out. And that's kind of what's happening now. So, again, as I say, welcome back. Good to see you all. Finally today, the Pico point came, the SLU, whatever it is anyway, bullhead one came, surprisingly, in the snow. Got loads of snow here. It's kind of drizzling now, but we're going to get more snow. It's pretty much been snowed in. So I'll give you a bit of a rundown now on how to actually lay track. Make sure you kind of got the right lengths and kind of learn from my past experiences of do's and don'ts. So this is like the length of Cliff Road anyway, the train set. So it's 3 foot in length and obviously 8 inches, wherever it is here. Since the last episode, I have actually put some wood under this. It came actually with a tumble dryer that we ordered randomly enough. I thought actually it was going to level out, but actually on second looking today, it needs to come up just a fraction more, just to keep it level to that. But that's another story, and that's another episode at some other point in time. And it's only a piece of wood. So all the Pico track has come. As I was saying before, the new point's come. Got an old point, the long one, but it's a bit worn out, to be quite honest. The spring's gone in it because something I did, most likely, or the kids. Now we did order 3 lengths of its flexi track as well. It's very different to kind of what you normally get, like the Code 100s. The spacing is a lot wider, which is great. The bullhead anchoring the track is so much more detailed, you can actually see it, which if you're after some sort of siding, it's fantastic. I did try the concrete kind of version. I think it may have been by them or another company, but it was not quite right and just didn't look right, so I went back to what I knew. So yeah, it was in 3 sections, but you can see it's not cut. Well, it's not in 3 sections now, it's in multiple sections. The reason for that was it got damaged in the post, in the box. Now I was going to initially complain, and then I was like, well, hold on. I need to cut them down anyway, so kind of what's the purpose of making a big deal of things? I think there's so much drama in the world, we make more of it. So I've cut them down to the lengths where the breakages were, really. But luckily enough, you can see I've kind of got 3 long lengths and 3 shorter lengths. So actually, in the grand scheme of it, it's neither here or there. But like I was saying, there may be another length in this. So essentially it's going to be 1 length, 2, 3. And then the 3rd length I'm on about would possibly run along here. And you might start going, well, where's your sort of fiddle yard or anything like that? Well, there's 2 options with this. And I think it's probably going to be the second one. First one I was considering was layering up here. As you can see, there's a pencil. There is a reason why I'm holding it. That's how much it needs to level off to the actual board. Obviously it can come up. So I was thinking about putting cork down. I was like, well, you know, it's more expensive. It's like 20 odd quid sometimes. The other one is I can actually raise this anyway, the entire board, just by a fraction, which wouldn't be hard to do underneath. If you followed episode 1 or episode 2, whichever one it is in, I show you how I built this, the board, but obviously I've showed how to build the storage underneath. So the storage underneath is for the trains, so they're all actually safe. I've not actually put them all into their right sizes yet, so they're still stray and loose, and if you've heard that they were broken, so lots of different things there. But obviously they're going to get all rebuilt and repainted in different episodes anyway. So what's likely to happen is somewhere around here I am going to have this side here as the front. That's going to be the back. So when it comes to the front part here, I could still have buildings, because actually when you look at a Class 153, granted the knackered one, it still works obviously, but without the chassis underneath, you can actually see how deep it is. So I still technically could have a building here up to the height of a 153, which actually could theoretically hide the 153, or just bushes or trees or whatever it is. But likewise, I could take the buildings off and store them underneath, so they can come out whenever you need it, and I could put Velcro here, anchor it down that way. So lots of different ideas. Back here, as the episodes will go along, a few ideas here. One being level it across here, so it's the same as the board here, and then the back would be, I don't know, some massive car park. Maybe you could have like a gate just towards the end here to sort of represent it's going off into a field, not a field, sorry, into a road or something or other, hence Cliff Road. Or my other thing is, I am going to actually be rebuilding these trains and repainting them, and I've got a 2-year-old, I've got a 9-year-old, so the whole purpose of this build is space at a premium. So I don't have anywhere else to store these trains realistically, and if I want to work on them, where am I going to work on them? They need to be kept safe. So the other thought was, this will have a lower end base, so another one of these boards at the bottom, the shelf, from one of the other episodes. You can see here there's some, just about, you might be able to see some protrusion, so that's a screw leading into the board, the planks just behind it, thin planks, which I'll show you another day, just to kind of level it off. So it could actually hold one of these boards in place, so I could actually do work on the trains this side. But then obviously it wouldn't look realistic, but does it really matter? Probably not. Sometimes I think we make things too complicated for our own good, things become more expensive, and actually the whole idea of this is everything is compact, everything is together, and that's the way I'm aiming for this to be. So it's probably more likely that's going to have a board in, I can paint whatever I want on, and yeah, if you're sort of from the front angle, it wouldn't look very good. But on the plus side, if you think about it, you've still got kind of the height of the 153, give or take, with the board there. I can have big hedges all the way back. And there's one layout, or another layout, I will give shout out to people. I think it's Chris Gurney, because I spoke to him some time ago. Really nice chap anyway. He built the sidings amongst Dyserth Road and such like things like that. Well, he made such a minimalistic train set, based on something like 6 foot length, and not much wider than this, because I've seen it at the Shrewsbury model show. It's only 1 point, and it's absolutely phenomenal. So if you've never seen it, just go on YouTube. There's plenty there with him. Or just go on Google Images. So I suppose maybe some of the ideas from that, I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So I've been watching some other channels lately as well, and commenting, and some people have been commenting back really nicely actually, which I'll come back to in another day and give some shout outs. So essentially what's going to happen now is I'm going to attempt to build where things should go. So there's a few ways how you can actually lay down track. One is, well, what I've learned over the years. One, you can be very clever, line it all up, draw it out like a template. Then you can put your ballast down and use super glue. Some of you might actually go, oh my god, what on earth is Cliff on about here? But no, it is actually a technique. It's something that is used in HO Gauge in America. It's just that I've been doing this for most of my life, and I kind of know what I'm doing here. It's not going to happen with this. I'm going to kind of go old school, I guess, with it. So my plan here is I'm going to draw it out, which I'll show you in a minute. Then I'm going to line them all up. And then I'm going to put a layer of glue down, make sure that they're all in the right places, and leave it be. Because after that, I'm going to spray paint it in primer, probably Halfords primer, because I'm always fiddling with cars as well. I like projects, so probably a way of escaping certain things in life, I guess. so yeah, that's essentially what's going to be going on next. Just a word of warning though, for those that are used to soldering. If you do venture off into this Pico bullhead track, the SL fine scale version, soldering seems to be an absolute pain. And I think that's the most politest way of saying it, because this took me about an hour to solder 2 pieces of wire onto the rail. I don't know why. There's nothing indifferent with the wiring, nothing indifferent with the solder, nothing indifferent with the soldering. So my only guess is there might be a slightly different type of metal used. So just be cautious. You may find that, you may find that it doesn't happen anyway. So it's not the neatest of soldering, and I think, you know, you could probably all agree that if I spent that long trying to do this, I probably have lost the will, haven't I? But it won't take long to tidy something like this up. Unfortunately, you can see here there is a bit of a solder mark, which I'm not really surprised about. I had a sneeze because I've had a cold and not been very well either, but you know, when ballast is on and all the other stuff, I'm not going to notice that. All of this will get primed. The rail will get like a rusty colour. The sleepers are going to be different colours. So what's that? That's something I've seen on a HO layout, and I'll explain why that person did what he did. Because actually, when you start looking at like this sort of track and this sort of sleeper that we have in the UK, most will be older. So it's not like your concrete slabs, so they get worn, they get replaced with newer ones. So some are old, some are new, and yeah, it's quite interesting. Given that I live in Aberystwyth, yeah, you stand on the platform and look at what we've got here, you can sort of like appreciate it a bit more as well. Not so much in this weather, you can't see anything with the rain and the snow, but anyway, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to template everything out. So one of the first things you need to do, I must admit, when everybody's kind of in a rush and they want something done, they want an end product. I don't particularly want a quick end product with this. I am learning how to do YouTube. I am trying to get subscribers. Hint, hint. Gotta laugh, haven't you? But it does really motivate you to carry on. And I know a lot of people watch these YouTube videos, but I tell you what, when you start doing it for real and doing your own video, the amount of work that it takes is phenomenal, and trying to get your head around how you look on video and how you sound is also something else to overcome. But I do digress, and yeah, it is time to move. Apparently the cat is on one of the kids' toys, as you do, so it'll probably go off. You gotta giggle. So anyway, so I know this is essentially the head shunt hiding part anyway. Great job. See, even the toys agree with me. So here we go indeed. So I know that nothing is going to be any longer than this, so I do apologise. I'm not going to stop this video for this, but this is what a kitten does. It will just jump on the kids' toys and things will happen randomly. So you may think I'm professional, but you might find it funny at the same time. And this is the reality of life, isn't it? Things happen. Why do we have to cover these things up? I bet there's loads of people doing their videos and things randomly happen and we re-edit them to make it look professional, but the reality is, no, I don't think that's the case. So, anyway, make sure that you know the longest train that you've got. That's my 153. So it's going to end up landing probably in that angle. I would say that's fairly good for what I want. So I'm going to mark that off as there. So now that I've done that, I will then need to make sure that that would fit there or thereabouts. So this is probably one of the more crucial things, because as soon as you've glued it down, that's it, isn't it, really? So I've already soldered wire to one of the tracks, and I've got backup plans if it doesn't work, and there's no reason why it shouldn't do, he says. So I'm looking at this. So worst case, if I'm going to have some 153s, this is the length, and they are like a foot long, so they're horrible in the sense of They are one of the shortest modern trains that we can have. But when you're building a compact train set, they're still quite long. But that's life. Right, so that's about the length. So follow up, and you can actually see I've got length, haven't I? So, you know, I've got a good 3 inches at the top there, and I've got about something similar here. So by what I was saying about before, make sure that everything marks up okay. If you have a look now at the 153, problem being it's then shorter. The line would be shorter than the other side. Now, this can work in 2 ways realistically, couldn't it? Because this is essentially going to be a Network Rail, Colas, on-track plant kind of depot. For the things that we don't actually spend much love and attention to, all these tampers and goodness knows what, they're everywhere and we just ignore them. And actually they got one of the most shortest depot sidings that you can ever have, and probably one of the most interesting. Like, even like Colham, although it's not really a tamper depot, the amount of traction that they have there is absolutely phenomenal. And even just adjacent to that, there's another depot kind of next to it, the Tampa depot, 2 lines. Absolutely phenomenal what you can see there as well. But I haven't been to Shrewsbury for ages, but I'm just saying there's lots out there, and I was brought up on the Cambrian, and this probably going to have some sort of Cambrian feel anyway. So looking at this then, I could either adjust points and make it so I can have it like 1 to there, and then I'd have to kind of have it all the way up to there, which is okay. But I'm also considering another line, very crude wiggly line, but that's how I operate. Not everything is perfect. I see some of these fantastic layouts, and nothing against them on YouTube, but everything is pristine, you know, and I'm just like, no, I don't work like that, and I'll still get similar results at the end of it. So I'm just out to prove the point. Cheap trains, cheap build, track is expensive, but I'm going to try and make it as realistic as I can, and there's nothing wrong with that. So if we're going back to this, you'd have to go back, if you're new to it, into modelling. So 1, will it fit? Yeah, there's plenty of space. Yep, probably a little bit more space now, so if you wanted that other line coming in, probably an okay point, so to speak. Here, yeah, I would say I've got a good length. Here, an okay length. But the reality is, I don't think I want them the same sort of length anyway. It gives me more scope for something up here, and I can still have a porter cabin here with no problems most likely, and it would not catch in the box, so it's always a plus on that front. Now granted, you have to think ahead, so here it's going to be some sort of hedgeway, because I don't want the edge of this board really showing, and it'll act as a bit of a buffer and protection if the 2-year-old gets hold of it, because that's what happens in life. So I don't want it crashing like that. It wouldn't be realistic. So realistically, you can see I've got some holes made for different things. It's going to line up there really, isn't it? That's going to have to go there. Go back, make sure that you've still got your length, which we have. Can we still fit something up here? The answer is yes. Can I go further back? The answer is yes. So now we know that we're in virtually the right place. So what we need to do now, mark where we're going to be, give or take, mark, and then mark again. And that should put me where I need to be. Now there is something being made by somebody on eBay who's into 3D stuff, and he's developed a manual switch for this, but the only thing is I don't know really how long it's going to be and whether I'm going to have some technical issues, so we'll come back to that as we get through it. If it's not going to quite work, it's no big deal. There'll still be lots of other ways around this. I think I want this probably manual control to here, so, or maybe I will end up with a point motor Surface One, go old school with it, and it can go there. So there's still lots of options, and it still makes things interesting as well. So it's about using what we got. We don't have to go all modern tech, so it's just food for thought at the minute. So here is actually what I've done so far. It didn't quite get to plan as I first thought, and that's one of the kind of beauties, I guess, of making a model railway, train set, whatever you want to call this. It took some realigning. So as you can see here, I opted for this soldered piece of track to become redundant for a good reason, because when I started plotting things out, I realised that, which is something I was planning anyway, is I need a gap wood expansion. So there's another good tip for everybody: wood and heat expand, wood and cold shrink. Okay, or is it the other way around? Nope, that's the right way around. Even I have to think. And you have to remember, I'm doing these videos late at night when everybody's asleep, so that's the reality of family life, isn't it? So essentially this is it. So what I thought was going to be shorter is shorter, at least visually, isn't it? But it's not much shorter. Now going back to the wiring anyway, because I do like to digress, don't I? What I'm planning to do, the wires, if you look carefully here, and where my finger is, crudely, I'm going to solder one there and then one there, because actually using I don't know what they're actually called, the nails for holding wires in onto the walls, well, that's what's going to happen there. Wire can follow along here, underneath, and eventually we'll come to controller A and controller B, or controller A and points, or controller, or whatever it is that I'm doing there anyway. So that's essentially the design. So what you need to do next will be to, if you're designing something like this, even a small simple thing like this is not simple. If you want it to make look really, really good and realistic, I'd suggest firstly researching loads of layouts, watching loads of layouts, googling lots of layouts, and then stepping back and go and look at the real world, because the real world is completely different to a lot of what we see. Apart from like some of the few exceptions that I've seen on YouTube, like proper chuffed, like Hilton. I just think the guy's amazing. His YouTube videos always tickle me, and he's just a generally nice chap. Bit like Nick Gurney as well. Genuinely nice chaps. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to draw out the outline, and then I'm going to use Copydex along where the track will sit. So as you can see now, I've put down the Copydex, which is a form of PVA glue. It's like one of the strongest ones, if you're not used to it. To be honest, any PVA glue will do. But what I have found is, one, Copydex, small amount, really expensive. Number two, doesn't smell great, smells like fish. So these are the real things that no one ever tells everybody else about. I'd rather just be upfront and honest that, you know, if you're starting off doing something like this, you have to be prepared for some of these random things that happen. It does smell a bit fishy, is my only way of describing it. It's like £10 or £11 for a small tub, whereas if you went and looked, that stuff is fantastic. It's about £5, £6, so much more that you get for your money. The only reason I use Copydex is, one, I've got some left, so fair enough, isn't it? But it does set a lot quicker anyway. So when you are doing something like this and you are actually doing points, make sure you leave a gap. Okay, so your gap here is for when your point control section, which is here, turn over, it needs to be clear. So if you get that wrong at this point, you're not going to have any points at work. So that's going to be my first step. I'm going to put it down, leave it dry overnight, and then the next bit will be ballasting, realistically. So that'll be another episode in itself. I think that would be quite good. Whether you all agree, I don't know. If you do, if you don't, doesn't matter. Probably not. It's my train set, isn't it? And that's the thing. And I'm just trying to get these things across. But any comment is useful for me. Every subscription is really helpful for me because it's motivating. Any or comments on all the other channels. So I'm getting loads of comments on other YouTube channels and Facebook and Instagram. So I must be doing something right here, even if the quality is not the best. But although it may not be the best quality, things come in time. This is my 6th, 7th episode, and I look at these things as more than what everybody else is sometimes doing. So I'm trying to show people the journey that it takes, from starting off a YouTube channel, starting off a train set, model railway layout, whatever we want to call these things, the pitfalls, the pros, the cons, the reality of life, families, etc. Okay, so that's essentially where we're at. You can see why you only need a thin layer, or maybe you can't really so much in this, but I only want a thin layer just to anchor this down a bit, because the next step will be ballasting, which I think is probably going to be quite a painstaking task, because I see most people, they usually just put the ballast in, whether they have a ballast spreader or not, I don't, so that might be something I look at. And then a pipette system with 50% water and 30% glue, or whatever the mix is. Whether or not I approach it that way, I don't know. I must admit, if I want to use super glue, it's going to take quite a bit for here. Pros of that, super glue, it's quick. Cons, it smells, it gets on your fingers, and little bits of stones on your fingers isn't great. And you've got no manoeuvrability afterwards, so... but that's essentially where I'm at with this anyway, with Cliff Road, so... yeah, I think it'll come together quite nicely, so... yeah, see you all later. Have a good one.